So Queen Esther she's pretty famous in the Bible. Really, she's considered a hero. She even has an entire book of the Bible named after her, right? Is it found in the Old Testament or New Testament? Who knows? The Old Testament. That means before Jesus was born on this earth. So way in ancient Persia, she was not always a queen. Was she born into royalty? Was she born a queen? No, she was just an average kid. Yes, Cameron, just like all of us. We were born into a family. We had a mom and a dad, just ordinary. Well, most of us have a mom and a dad. She was just like that. She had a mom and a dad, but something tragic happened to her mom and her dad, and they passed away. They died. And so she was left with no family, no parents, probably no hope. How would you feel if you guys lost your mom and dad? Sad. Yeah, it's awful. We don't even want to think of that happening. It sounds horrible. But God still had a plan for her, didn't he? God still, amidst all of that bad stuff that was happening in her life, God still had a plan, and he still loved Esther. She was a Jew. So that means that she worshiped the one true God, the God that we worship today. She worshiped God. She didn't worship other idols or any other gods. She was God's daughter. So she ended up being raised or adopted by her cousin named, do you guys remember what his name was? Mordecai. And was Mordecai a Jew? Yes, Mordecai was a Jew as well. So she was raised to love God, to know God, and she believed in God. So there came a time where the king needed a new queen, as you guys saw in the video. So he kind of threw kind of a beauty pageant in a way. So a bunch of the Persian girls in the land came to the palace, and God gave Esther favor over all these other girls. God gave Esther favor in the king's eyes, and she became the queen. So God handpicked Esther out of all these girls, but she was God's chosen one to do this assignment. So she was obedient, and she became queen of Persia. So she went from being an orphan to queen of Persia. And at that time, Persia had reign over the Jewish people, and they were sent in exile. That means the Persians and the Jews, did they get along? No. The Persians hated the Jews. They hated them, and they detested them. And here, the king of Persia was married to what? To who? A Jew. But he did not know that. He didn't know that she was a Jew. They didn't want anybody to know that she was a Jew. Otherwise, she could be killed, or who knows what could happen to her. So she kept quiet. But can you imagine this? The king of Persia, the Persians who hate Jews, was married to a Jew. Isn't that amazing? So anyways, that was kind of a new beginning for Esther, right? She became a queen after being an orphan and not having any hope for her life or a family. She became queen. This was only the very beginning, though, of this story, because there was a man named Haman. And Haman was a very evil man. And he hated the Jews like all the other Persians did, or most of them. But he thought that he should be king, really, and he thought that he was all that, and he wanted everybody to bow down to him. But Mordecai was a Jew, and he did not bow down to him. He did not want to bow down to Haman because he only bowed down to the one true God. So he did not bow down to Haman, and that made Haman very, very angry. That's right. He did not take that very well. So he had a plot, and what was that plot? To kill all of the Jews. And Mordecai heard the plan. You guys know this story. Wow, you guys should be telling it. That's awesome. And he didn't know what to do, but he told Queen Esther about this plan. And Queen Esther how do you think she must have felt? That all of her people, he wanted all of her people to be killed? Yeah, she was beyond sad. She was scared. She didn't know what to do. So here she was an orphan. Now she's queen of Persia, but she is facing being killed. Back then in ancient Persia, could you just walk up to the king? No. You could be killed if you went up to the king without being summoned. So unless the king said, Josiah, come to my throne, I need to talk to you. If you did not have that invitation, you could be beheaded. You could be killed. So Mordecai wanted Esther to go to the king, but she said, Mordecai, do you know what will happen to me if I go to the king? Even though I'm the queen, I can still be put to death. So she did something very courageous. But first, she said, okay. And actually, I'm going to turn to Esther really fast in the Bible. So in chapter 4, she agrees that she wants to help the Jews, but she doesn't know what to do. And Mordecai encouraged her, and he said to her, for if you keep silent, this is Mordecai speaking to Esther through a messenger. He said, for if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Turn to your neighbor and say, for such a time as this. Now we know that we are coming into a new year, a new season. And have you ever heard of anybody say, for such a time as this?
No. Yes.
No, yes, some of you guys have. Well, for such a time as this, that got to Esther. She was thinking, wow, what if I was put here on this earth, in this palace, at this time to be queen, to save all of my people? What if? What if it is my time to be obedient to God and I can save my nation? That's the question that she had to ask herself for such a time as this. So she didn't really know, though. She didn't know. She faced a huge decision. She could risk her life and save her people, or she could, I guess, kind of lose her life anyway, right? Because all the Jews would be killed. So she had a huge decision to make, but she didn't know what to do. So what did she do? Does anybody know what she did? The Bible says that she summoned all Jews on her behalf to fast. What does fasting mean?
Not eat.
Fasting means to not eat, but they did that for the purpose to give your attention to God and to be quiet. And instead of back then in the way in ancient times, it was a chore to gather food, to hunt food. We didn't have McDonald's. We couldn't go through the drive-thru, okay? So it took up a lot of their time to just survive and just to gather food and to cook food and to prepare food. So they decided to not worry about any of that for 3 days, and they gave all their attention and focus on God, and they were quiet, and they listened. They wanted to hear God's voice. They wanted to be obedient. Esther wanted to be obedient to God. And if this was her time, she wanted to follow in obedience to that. Okay, I need 3 volunteers to come up here and see if they can figure out how to make this piece of paper like that, okay? So let me see here. All right, so I got 3 sheets of paper. All I used was a sheet of paper and a scissors. So grab a scissors. Here you go.
Blue.
Do you guys think you know how to do this? Take a good look at it.
I think you have to oh, I see what they did there.
You think so?
I did.
All right, well, you guys can go ahead and try doing that. And if you need help, you can ask anybody you want. Go ahead and ask somebody if you need some help or anything,
I need to look at it. There we go.
Here you go. Do you think they can do it? So, you guys, you can go ask for help. If you want to go, you can ask anybody in this room if you want to. Go ask them for help if you think you need help. All right. Did you do it? Did she do it? Yes? No. No, look at it close. Did she do it? That was a good try. I mean, that was a very good try. Give it up. That was a good try, but that's still No, not exactly. Now, I told them that they could ask anybody for help, right? Yeah. Who's the person they should have asked?
You. God. Everybody. God.
Okay, so I made this, okay? So if I made this, that would mean I know how to make it, right? So they should have asked who? You. Yeah, the person that made it, right? I made it, so they should ask me. You guys, I want you guys to remember this. Listen up. I wanted to show that to you because who created us?
God.
God. So who should we go for help?
God.
It's as simple as that, you guys. He made us. So if he made us, do you think he has all the answers? Yes. Yes, I can tell you every little detail of what I did to get this. I'm the only person. Well, unless you really know how to do it. But God is the only person who knows everything about you, who can tell you what to do in times of trouble or in times where you don't know what to do. And so that is exactly what Esther did. She went to who? She went to God. She went to the source. She went to the source, and that was the answer. That was the key for her to become queen of the largest empire on the world. And not only that, but the most important thing is she saved all of the Jews. She saved them from being killed. Now, do you think that it was on her own strength or her own wisdom? No, she went to God. She went to the source. So I want to tell you guys that if you go to the source, if you go to the person who created you, to the maker of the heavens and earth, if you go to our Creator, He will give you answers. He will give you a new beginning. He will show you things that you never thought were possible. Do you think Esther, when she lost her parents, do you think she would ever be queen of Persia?
No.
Do you think she would ever save an entire nation?
No.
No. She had no idea. But it took, what did it take? It took not only courage. She was probably scared, but it took obedience. Obedience. Because sometimes we can be afraid. If God tells us to do something, we might not want to do it. It might frighten us. It might scare us. But if we go to God in prayer, and if we listen and we obey, He cares for us and He loves us and He's going to show us the way. Do you guys believe that? Yes. All right. So I want you to remember Esther. She really was a hero. And if you guys are ever feeling doubtful, or if you're feeling fearful, you don't know what to do, go to the Creator, because He can show you the way. He can give you help, and He can take you to places that you never thought possible. Okay?